If someone had told me 3 or 4 years ago that I would be not buying store-bought bread and I would be making my own, I would have, I don't even know, I probably would have laughed in their face or been like, no, that's not me. Do you see me? I can barely put my pants on. My shirt is inside out. You know, I was in the throes of being pregnant with my 7th child. I was like, that's hilarious. But here I am today. It's been a year and I still have 7 children. And I have fit making bread into my just ordinary daily stay-at-home mom, homeschool, laundry, cooking, crazy routine. I would like all of you to realize you don't have to suddenly be this genius bread maker in the kitchen. It is possible to just slowly over the course of months and even years to adapt your schedule and adapt your habits to introduce making your own bread for yourself and your kids. You will not regret it. I'm Danielle and this is Hogan Live. Thank you for joining me. I like to talk about everything mom related, and you know that in the kitchen, well, that's mom related. We are always in the kitchen. There are 3 reasons, and these are good reasons, that I make my own bread. 1, it just tastes better. It's delicious. 2, it's healthier. And 3, it's cheaper than buying bread. Is that a spider on her shirt? No, I think it's like what? Shoelace or a tie? Freaking me out. Looking in her eyes, not at her spider. I can't unsee it. In this video, I hope to just inspire you that it's not super overwhelming. It is a bit of a learning curve, but I'm going to introduce 3 just basic recipes for sourdough and for just yeast bread if you do not want to take the trouble to learn sourdough at this time.
If you are interested in any of these 3 recipes, I recommend taking a snapshot of this frame right now.
A nice active sourdough looks like this. It has a lot of little pockets of air, and the very top looks like it is still rising. What I love about this specific recipe, it is so easy and it only has 4 ingredients. You heard me right. Sourdough starter, water, flour, and salt. I do really love using a kitchen scale, and not just because it's so accurate, but because I don't have the added dishes, you know, the cups of various sizes.
Now, in the beginning, I was really strict with my measurements just because I was trying to get the hang of it. Now I realize I don't have to baby it quite so much, and I can still get a really quality loaf every single time.
If I am in the habit of making bread every morning, as soon as I use my starter, then I feed my starter. I feed it with about a 1/2 cup of flour and a little less than a 1/2 cup of water. This gives me enough starter to make my next loaf in the morning. Cover and set aside the dough for 30 minutes to an hour. I like to do it 30 because then I get it taken care of, and then do 4 to 6 stretch and folds. I want to show you the 3 separate stretch and folds so you can see the change in the dough. Here's the second stretch and fold, and now we are going on to the 3rd stretch and fold. After the 3rd stretch and fold, I am going to leave the dough on the counter for the duration of the day.
The sourdough that I made this morning, as you can see, it's about doubled.
Before I go to bed for the night, I am reshaping my dough and sticking it in the fridge. I know this feels like a lot of steps, but these are all small steps that take very little time. So for me, it was really just a matter of getting into the routine of adding the sourdough steps. The next morning, I preheat my oven to 425. I stick in my Dutch oven so that it can warm up for at least a 1/2 hour, and set the loaf of bread on the counter to give it a little bit of a rise for a 1/2 hour. I'm all about knocking off extra steps if I can, and I used to take off the lid halfway through, but now I just leave the lid on for the duration of the bake, and I am baking it for 47 minutes.
So with a yeast sourdough bread, I am doing roughly the same recipe, but I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of yeast. I don't like to waste my sourdough starter, so if it's a little more than I was expecting, I'll just put it all in the loaf. So if I'm in the routine of making 1 loaf a day, so I start my sourdough bread in the morning, I'm going to use all my sourdough starter and then refeed it for the next day. Now this is for winter when my house is colder. Oftentimes it only takes 4 hours for your sourdough starter to be ready. So you're just gonna have to gauge that as you go along, depending on where you live and how warm your house is and how consistent the temperature. I know that seems like a lot, but it really isn't. a couple times feeding your sourdough with the temperature of your house, and you're gonna learn what it likes best and how quickly your sourdough starter will rise and be all active and bubbly. This is about 110 grams.
So the process of adding yeast to my bread just takes away some steps. I am not going to put the bread in for a second proofing in the fridge. Now, don't forget that extra time in the fridge for that proofing is what really adds that tangy sourdough taste to your bread. So if that's what you're really going for, you do want to do the whole process and do not neglect your second proofing in the fridge.
So there we have our shaggy dough, and now I'm still gonna do my 3 stretch and folds, so every half an hour. If you're a mom of small kids and you're in the kitchen a lot, the stretch and folds are not hard because literally it takes 20 seconds. You just have to set that timer so that you remember them. Right now I'm getting dinner prepared and putting it on the table, so I'm in the kitchen. I'm right here. I'm gonna do my stretch and folds, then I'm gonna stick it over by the fire for a nice little rise. This is just an oversized lid. There you go.
So after 3 separate stretch and folds, meaning I let the dough sit on the counter for half an hour, then I stretch and fold it 4 to 6 times, and then I let it sit on the counter for another half an hour, and then I stretch and fold it, and then another half an hour, and I do a final stretch and fold. I put it then in a warm place for a couple hours to give it a good rise. After it's doubled in size, I then shape the dough and leave it on the counter for about a half an hour to an hour while I preheat the oven with my Dutch oven inside.
Everything we need right here.
Finally, I have a regular yeast sandwich bread. This is a very nice tasting bread, but it does require a lot more ingredients.
Nope, this is bread. So proofing your yeast just means you're going to put your yeast in there with the water, milk, and the honey, and I'm just placing a towel over it, and I'm just going to let it mix together and proof for about 10 minutes. See how it's bubbly? There we go. Good active yeast.
After I've added all the ingredients, I use my KitchenAid with the dough hook to knead the bread for about 10 minutes. This really makes it doable for me, so I don't have to sit there and knead my bread on the counter for 10 minutes.
Stick it right there by our fire.
After it doubles in size, then I reshape the dough and stick it in my loaf pan and give it another rise on the counter. Currently, I am using unbleached white flour, organic, for all of these recipes. I think it's a great place to start, but after you have gotten a little comfortable with your dough, then you can start including whole wheat flour or a flour alternative, half cup at a time until you really reach a desired intensity. Making my sourdough loaf with half stone ground whole wheat and half unbleached organic white flour is just a great combination. Makes a really quality and moist bread. Thank you for joining me today. This is Danielle Hogan. Happy baking.